we can call this meeting of the Hindley Homes and Royal Building Committee to order at 6:01 p.m. on June the 13th, 2024. First order of business is to approve meeting minutes from our April 17th meeting, which was the last time we met. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Dave Martin moves. Jameson seconds. All in favor? I'll take Sarah's silence as in favor. So that's approved. No members of the public here to make public comment.
Paige is joined, Chris.
Right on time. Yeah, I see that. Right on time. Paige joined, which is perfect. For those of you who have not met Paige yet, Paige Gosling is our newest member of the building committee. So would I like to extend a warm welcome, Paige. You're going to get to see and hear from all these people a lot.
Yeah, I'll join. I'll go on camera in a minute.
Sure. Yeah. This is a weird date for a meeting. I appreciate that, but I wanted to have a meeting because we're now just a couple days away. Tomorrow's the last day of school in town, and tonight is high school graduation. So thank you, Kevin Monrette, for joining us, even though I'm sure you're keeping busy at high school graduation, trying to make sure that it actually happens. So, and it's a little bit weird. Kids are wrapping up school, but construction starts on Monday. We're ready to go. We've been at this for a little over 2 years already, since the committee was stood up. And we are ready to go. I've driven by the schools. The trailers are there. The folks are kind of on site. So fingers crossed. It looks like we're gonna have good weather to start. I assume work just starts on Monday. There's no, I mean, I guess I shouldn't presume anything, but work just starts on Monday. There's no event, right? It's just people show up early morning and get going,
Yep.
right?
We just get going. Yep.
Okay.
We get going.
Perfect.
Yep. So it's, I know we talked about it a little bit in the OAC meeting last week, but yeah, we're going to ramp up. I'm not sure what the head count will be on Monday, but there'll be a slow start to a hum to the job site. So,
yeah. So I guess for those folks who weren't able to make it last Friday, we had the first owners, architects, contractors meeting, the OAC, or I guess what's sometimes called the trailer meetings. And Dave Crevenzola, if you're able to maybe, well, let me start. Paige was there. She was in the trailer. Dave Martin was there. I was there. Jameson, had you logged into that, or Tom, were you able to log into that?
No, because we couldn't have a quorum. So
right. Okay.
I said
so then, if possible, Dave, if you would give a quick update of what was talked about at that meeting. I know the minutes were published, but kind of quickly what was covered at that meeting. Pardon me, I'm babysitting my daughter's cat, so he occasionally jumps up on me and he's rude, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
So these guys can have a kind of a download, and we can then talk about going forward how those meetings are going to be handled.
Sure. Yeah, this first one, I do appreciate everyone that took time out of their days to be there. So the idea of this meeting is really to give somewhat of a higher level update on what's the key information that has to be shared amongst the group on an every other week basis. So we, the agenda, if those of you who have or haven't seen it, we always start with safety, and that's both what does it mean for the workforce that's out there, but what does it also mean for the environment? So that's an opportunity where we talk about anything that could be, a matter of safety for the campuses that we are constructing within. Next, we talk about a look ahead. We talk about what's coming up next, and each of the superintendents talk about that. I think going forward on that, I think our approach is going to be, because it's going to get to the point where there is a lot going on each of the projects. And I think out of respect for everyone's time that participates in those meetings, is that there's always a lot of backup information to those minutes that's readily available during the meeting, and it's also published after. But I think just respect for people's time, we're going to try to keep that that look ahead to what are the key pieces of information that people need to know about. What are milestone activities that are going to be starting? Like, we've got our first concrete placement next week, or we're going into these rooms of the existing school. Even that is not as critical for the group at large, because there's going to be a lot of communication with each of the school principals on a daily basis when they're there. We then talk about where we are with submittals. That's the process of submitting all the different materials of the project. Again, the O&G AP team and Travis and his team and their design consultants, are spending countless hours throughout the week talking about each of those things in detail. When do we need them back? What's the content? So really the idea going forward for the OAC meetings is going to be, what are the RFIs, the questions, requests for information, and what are the submittals that require the owner's input or evaluation, right? That way we can keep that streamlined. We talk about if anyone has any changes that come about. If there's something, say, from the school standpoint, the design team standpoint, the owner standpoint, something that they think needs to change from the current plan, whether it has to do with the schedule or the scope of the work. We'll talk about that. We'll give an update on where things are from a payment standpoint, just to make sure that everything is in order there. I think that's, if there's any specific items any of the design team members have. I'm actually just going to flick over to the agenda quick and just see if there's
the idea is you're going to do this kind of one school at a time, right? Is that, or? Yes,
we are, because they each need to get the right attention. So what we also talked about is that we're gonna mix up the order in which we talk about the schools, so that way the last school that's talked about is not always the last school, because inevitably people lose a little energy and focus after hearing about two other projects. So we're going to try to rotate that a little bit so that every project has the opportunity to really be on in the spotlight. If there's any new business that anyone has to bring forth, we talk about that. And Chris, to your point, we talk about each project individually with respect to that. And then that's it. Those days where the OAC meeting happens are also days when Travis and his consultants are on site. So, the meeting is good for updates, but it's also really important that on those days that we have the time to get out of that trailer and actually go and look and answer the questions and solve the problems that need people right there in person. So I think the meeting the other day was over an hour, right? I think it was an hour.
About an hour, yeah.
And I think a good goal for us would be, that we would never want them to exceed that. If we can aim more towards the 30 to 45-minute mark, I think that's really where we want to be. And listen, as we do that, you as the committee members, if there are pieces of information about the project that you feel we went over too quickly, just stop us at any point and say, "I just have a quick question about that." We want to keep you informed, but we also don't want to inundate you with information that you may not feel is necessary to know.
And then because it's kind of on the agenda as well, so how does what goes on in the OAC meeting, how then do we also tie in kind of financial reporting into that process? Because that's not really part of the OAC meeting, correct? Or is it?
Correct. No, you're right. I mean, well, we talk about financials, we talk about changes, we talk about payments, but as far as doing overall budget reporting, that's where, we're going to prepare a monthly progress report, which I do have. I don't know, Dave, did you circulate it to the committee at large?
Yeah, he did. Okay. He sent the Ox Ridge version.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm prepared. If you want, I can call it up and I can walk you through the content of that, and just so that you're familiar with what it is you're going to see. There are a couple of tweaks that, we picked a report that was for Oxbridge was in the swing of things, and we're constantly evolving the way those reports look and come together. So the one you'll see is a little different than than the one you saw, but generally, we created that report because it essentially touches upon all of the items for the project that by the contract, we owe you every month. You know, we owe you statuses of changes, where we are with the schedule, progress photos, and it just concisely compiles it all together into one report. So if you want, Chris, do you want me to?
Yeah, look, I had a chance to look at that today. I don't know if other folks did. I don't know that I mean, it's 30 some pages. I don't know that we necessarily need to scroll pages unless people want to, or if people looked at it and there were any items in there that that gave rise to questions. I know the one thing I wanted to know is to make sure that we were getting, kind of an updated timeline, and it looks like there is one toward the back end of that report, so we can see how we're doing against schedule. Against projected schedule. Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? That's sort of the non-financial plan. That's just the actual, is the work being done kind of on the time frame we had in mind.
So if we could do this, why don't we, because
go ahead and screen, go ahead and screen share if you want.
Yeah. Sarah, can you grant me access to share, please?
Sarah may be walking home from the train, so she may not be able to do that. So we may need to come back to that.
Hang on 1 second.
Oh, there she is.
So what I'll do is I'll show you the report, and I'll for today, why don't I show you the key information? Because you're right, this report at times is going to grow into a large report. So,
and there's going to be one for each school, correct?
There is. We talked about ways of trying to streamline it, but there's no way that we can produce a report and make sure we cover all the information, commingling the information. And since they are individual state projects, it's better. Right. It's better paper trail. So I would say when the report comes out, and what we'll do is the report will come out every month, and what we'll do is we will make sure that when, one of the things that has to happen here is establish a regular building committee meeting schedule, and at that meeting we'll be presenting this report and also payment application and any changes that have to come before the committee. So this report will back into that and get the report to the committee so that it's an item that can be reviewed ahead of the meeting. But if you only have 3 minutes to review our entire report, which at times will probably go to, well, it'll grow 3 reports times 50 pages or so. It's a lot of information. This page right here, the summary data, this is what you want. This is the concise snapshot of what is going on with the project. And what it does is, for the first report, it'll be one column. It's just where we started. But as you mentioned, Chris, it gives schedule information. It establishes, when the GMP had for this year, we said we were going to finish the academic wing on 4/14. Our current is we're still on track for 4/14. So we'll target each of those milestones for us. We will establish a milestone for each of the phases of the project, and that's what we'll be tracking to. So while there are dozens of pages of schedules to support it, this is really concise. Are we on schedule, or are we not on schedule? And listen, that will fluctuate a little bit here or there every month, and that's okay. That's just, as we're updating it, you'll see it, a few days or two, and probably easier said than done, but don't worry, because that shows you that we're actually manipulating on a monthly basis and actualizing it. So, and we'll talk about it. The next is the physical progress. Where are we in finishing the project? How far along are we? So, it'll say where we were last month, where we are this month. Gives you a good snapshot of how much we've really completed. The lower section of this is all financial. So the construction budget, that's the contract that you have with ONGAP. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. That's gonna meld with the $29 and $28 million contracts that there are for each of the projects. So in that, we'll tell you what the baseline budget is, the value of potential changes. Now, potential changes are changes that we have not brought forth formally to the building committee yet, but they're ones that we know are possible exposures. There could have been a field condition exposed that we said, you know what, there may be some added scope here. We will put something in the report for that. Or if there's a design change and we want to add another railing somewhere, and KG&D says, yep, we're gonna get you a document to add that railing. We'll put that in there. Say, you know, let's put a placeholder in for the added railing. So that's where potential is, so you can look forward a little more. Next is approved, which is what has officially been approved already. And then the combination there is what we project the contract to be, so that you can take that and plug that into your overall project budget and just know where you are at a high level.
And now just a quick question procedurally. This report, does this report come out, you know, the day before the OAC meeting every 2 weeks, or does it come out at the OAC meeting that people have a chance to look at it so they can have questions? Or
no, this report will be provided ahead of the monthly building committee meeting.
Okay, all right, okay, perfect.
Yep. So, and like I said, when we figure out, you know, are we doing the second Wednesday or whatever it is, you know, we generally are asked to provide our materials by, you know, that Thursday or Friday before the meeting, so that they can get sent out and people have some time to review it, so they're not walking into a meeting.
And are there materials that are provided for each OAC meeting or not? Or does that just done verbally?
It's materials related to
There's
whatever
meeting
discussed
minutes.
at the OAC meeting.
I mean,
Yeah.
you send meeting minutes from the last agenda,
Right,
essentially.
we
But
use
going
the
in,
previ-
yeah, but going into it, presumably there's an agenda, right, for each meeting, so people know what's going to be talked about.
Well, so the agenda for the OAC meeting essentially remains unchanged the entire time.
Okay,
And we
okay.
have the buckets of discussions that they happen every single meeting, no matter what. It may be a 30-second discussion that meeting. It may be a 20-minute discussion that meeting, depending on what it is. But the agenda stays the same. You'll see the meeting minutes too, Chris, that, you know, we document it. And then if it's an issue that continues, we'll keep the history, and then, you know, so that the meeting minutes don't become, you know, a 10-page document. At some point, we'll remove some of the lower, older information and make sure there's always recent information, so that you could always gain the context of what the discussion is about the item. And then there's always the new business items. So if something comes up that was not on the agenda, there's always that opportunity to add it during the meeting.
Okay, okay.
As far as materials for it, you know, we always have submittal and RFI logs where we identify what's really the important.
Yeah, but so
stuff.
for example, if somebody identifies, you know, to use your example, someone identifies a condition that came up that may require some additional scope, and they do that, you know, just during the regular course of construction, when will we, the committee, be alerted to that? Will it be at the OAC meeting, the next upcoming OAC meeting, or will it have to wait till the next?
No, we will generally have discussions about those at the OAC meeting. You know what?
Okay.
You know, especially if they're items that, you know, there may at times be something that between OAC meetings, something is uncovered that is ultra critical that it be discussed, and that's when we're going to need to use the channel set forth in the subcommittee guidelines.
Right.
But outside of that, if it's the normal course of, hey, we asked a question about this field condition, we received a response, and we have to now send that out for pricing, we'll discuss that at the OAC meeting. Say, hey, RFI 23, we're getting pricing on that because we have to reroute the piping because there was a column there that we didn't know about, or something like that. So they'll the idea is to never have you blindsided, especially at, say, the building committee level, of changes that you should know about them in some fashion before we get to this forum.
Got it. And then any questions? Do folks have any questions kind of on the scope of the report, the content of the report? I think at the very end, like I said, I think it was on page like 29, there was an updated timeline, so you could kind of see the progress, see graphically the pace of progress.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll attach our CPM schedule to every report.
Right.
And then there are so just let me just going back to this. The bottom part has to do with all the contracts that we are engaged in. So each of the trades that we contract with, that's where this information is contained. And then at the bottom is where we track all of the construction manager allowances and the construction manager's contingency. So that's
Right.
the
Okay.
So Dave, those are the construction manager allowances and contingencies, but some of the potential changes or approved changes might be changes that would end up coming out of our contingency, right?
That's correct. Yep. So and that would be that essentially would be this number here, the potential budget revisions.
Got it.
Because how it works is if something is drawn from either an allowance or a contingency, it's a net zero value to the Darien own GAP contract.
Yep, got it.
And then so that's the big snapshot on cost. And then what we have following that are really a series of reports that some of you may get great pleasure in diving into for many hours. Other of you may choose not to. And these are ones that I would just say that, when we get the first report that's for your projects, if we want, what we can try to do is maybe ahead of the building committee meeting, if there are people that have an interest in really understanding all the little parts and pieces, Scott, Tori, and we can walk you through that in great detail as far as what it all means. But all of these things, they end up rolling and referring to that summary sheet. That the last 2 pages were a large overview, and this is now a breakdown saying, okay, these are all the different changes that we're tracking, and we group them by whether they're potential or they're approved. And then we also group the ones that are being funded either from the CM allowance or CM contingency, so you can see those separately as well.
Dave, I won't speak for Chris, but I'm going to probably feel like I should go through this report thoroughly at least once. So, maybe in the beginning, we can arrange to do that. I don't know if Chris will have the time to do it or not, but.
I think that's a good idea because I think we need to, because that kind of segues into the financial reporting piece of it, right? And as you said, tracking it, tracking how we're doing against our budget on a school by school basis, because as everybody knows from the funding approval process that we live through, we're going to be scrutinized pretty carefully. So I think that's right. I think, what, how you present the financial data, how best for us to look at it. When do we typically get it so that we can be prepared for, whether we can be prepared for each of the committee meetings. And then we'll talk separately about the OGA process as well. But yes, Dave, that maybe is a separate offline conversation.
And we're happy to do that, especially for the first one. I would suggest we just, we try to, if possible, find a time where we can meet in person and just actually just go through it, right? And just line by line, ask the questions you want. Generally, what we see when we present this information to building committees is they get the full packet, but what actually is reviewed at the meeting is that summary data sheet that I showed you that had the milestones, high level, and then we'll give some iteration of the following pages that starts with this, which is commentary, which is essentially what did we do, what's happening now, what are some big things we're looking forward to doing in the between now and the next time we meet, which is for those of you that don't have the ability to have a touch point with the project regularly, it gives you the ability to understand what it is that's actually been transpiring leading up to the meeting and what we'll be following, so you have a handle on it if you're not able to engage at a greater level. So we go by each trade and say, what did they do? What were they working on this month? So that information will change each month. Then we have this section, which is generally we want to make it a priority to talk about this. It's anything that we feel is a cost or schedule impact to the project. Just so we're forthright and just discussing what's out there, what could be an issue. You know, do we learn of an issue with the procurement of a material that we may not receive in time? You know, we owe you updates on that information, and so that we can solve the problem. So that's where, you know, that's usually concise. We'll present that information.
Dave, before you move on, what's an ASI?
That an ASI is an architect's supplemental instruction.
Okay.
Travis, I don't know if you want to give an update on, right? Because did we land on the documents we're going to issue? Are we doing ASIs and PRs, proposal requests?
I mean, I guess an ASI is not terminology we use, but it would be as if we issue a sketch or a bulletin that makes a change that affects, and it may or may not affect cost. But
right, I think the way the AIA defines it is an ASI is not meant to materially change the scope of the work that would prompt a cost proposal. It's more of a clarification of the work that's documented. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think some of the inherent language in that AIA document is that, you know, it's pretty much saying, well, this doesn't change the cost of the contract. We're just clarifying some information. Whereas if we say, hey, we want to add 3 windows, we would, you know, it would be via proposal request where we all understand that we are soliciting pricing for a change in scope.
So, and Dave, just how we normally do that is like, we'll either respond directly to an RFI, we may issue a sketch or a bulletin that maybe summarizes several items in like a cover letter. And then really we give that to your team, and then you advise whether it has a cost impact or not.
Correct.
So we don't necessarily know if it does. I mean, we usually have a good idea, but sometimes, you know, we need the construction team to weigh in and let us know what the impact is.
And
sometimes
right.
It's a credit.
You're absolutely right. So, you know, so here I would say the way that we would do it is that, you know, that subject that says ASIs, PRs, RFIs, that would likely say, you know, SKs, bulletins, RFIs. It's really just, you know, every firm will do it differently. It really doesn't matter to us one way or another. The mechanism is the same. So that's the cost and schedule impact. You know, there will be some proposed change orders that will come to the committee. So this is a list that we publish. It says these are all the proposed changes that we have issued right now that we're looking for a decision on. So this would be the opportunity where we talk about changes.
Chris, what's the process for approving potential change orders? Is it a full committee?
I don't have the memo right in front of me. Maybe Dave or Sarah, if you guys can access it and send. We had done a memo.
We have it somewhere. I'll find it for you.
Yeah, that had been circulated to the committee based on the levels, the size of the change order, the levels of the cost,
by the dollar amount.
Approved by the dollar amount.
Tom, just to summarize briefly, we have a schedule broken out that for payments to be approved, you need so many people at this dollar level, so many people at the higher dollar level, so many people at a higher dollar level, and then ultimately the full committee if it goes above a certain amount. Since effectively when we're committing to a potential change order, we're effectively committing that same amount of funds, we thought we could use that same hierarchy in terms of who has to approve it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I remember that. Unfortunately,
and then there was a flow chart in terms of how the and maybe we can get that around so that everybody has it at the top of their inbox.
Yeah.
I'll send it right now. I have it.
Thank you. There's a flow chart about, you know, that shows the actual approval process and how payments are processed. And Dave Martin, maybe can I ask you to coordinate a time so that we can maybe see if we can find you, me, and Jill a time to sit with Dave Cravenzola, maybe ahead of the next building committee meeting, and go through the reporting process to make sure we are all on board with how it's being presented and what's being included.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk to you about that separately offline, just to make sure I know what you're looking for.
Yeah. I think it's okay, great.
Yeah, and I think what we may want to bring, was it Rich?
Rudel.
Yeah, I forgot if it's some stuff actually goes through Rudel, some stuff goes through Charneski, I believe.
I think ultimately the town's paying it, right? So this is,
Yeah. So, because
Yeah,
I think that was one of the other questions you had before this meeting is, that whole payment process. And I know that through Oxbridge, they've got that pretty well dialed in. They know once we submit our payment application to you, I don't necessarily know what happens, but I know that the town has been very good at paying us for several years. So
well,
whatever
yeah,
you're
because I
doing,
think the
keep doing it.
backside of that, right? The backside of that is the submission process to the state for reimbursement. And there's the process part of that, right? Which is who handles that. And honestly, I don't know that I've yet gotten clarity on that. Is that,
So it is yes, the district makes the submission for payments. So there's two facets of the interface with OGA. One is the payments where, you are making progress payments to us and to KG&D and others throughout the project, but you are then gathering that, and you are periodically, I don't know if it's monthly or not, or every other month, making payment requests to the Office of Grants Administration, and they are giving you your periodic reimbursement payments for that. So that's the payment side of it. That, like I said, once we submit the pay application, we don't necessarily. I don't necessarily know exactly what happens for Darien to do that, and I believe between Ruddle and Charneski, they do know because they've been doing it, and I know that as of one of the last Oxbridge committee meetings, the town had been paid. The state was generally current with their reimbursement, so they're doing a very good job of making submissions on behalf of the.
okay, yeah. So let us take that, Dave, Martin.
Sure.
You and I can talk offline because I think that's the second prong of what we want to do is get with some combination of Jen and Rich and make sure we understand how that's being handled and how we can track reimbursement against each of the different items, because I know different items have different percentages, and because I think that's the kind of thing that Board of Finance in particular is going to be pretty interested in seeing how we're doing against what's been approved by the state. Are we getting what percentages of reimbursement we're getting, et cetera.
It's on my schedule to look into next week. As far as the actual payments to ONG AP, that's pretty straightforward. They submit them. Linda logs them into the system.
Right.
Tracks that they have the proper signatures for approvals. Then they go over to Jen for payment. So
Right.
that's pretty straightforward. The reimbursement side, I think, is a little more complicated because, and I'm going to have to dig into that to find out exactly how that works and what data is available for us to figure out what exactly we can track at what level of granularity.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
And then I'm prepared to talk to you about the other part of Office of Grants Administration, which is the change order process. But before we do that, because I have another just a quick document to show for that. Before we do that, I just want to spin through what's left in this report, if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so PCO, and then we go into, like I said, we have multiple pages of the schedule. I don't know, at this point in the project, the schedule actually was only 9 pages long, so that's not bad. Then we move into progress photos. The documents the work and what was being done that month, and that's essentially where the report ends. Are there any questions about that before I talk to you about the change order process with the state? Okay.
None from me.
Okay, so what happens is, and we do this, we're going to get into a cadence where there may be 1 or there may be 10 changes. We'll gather the change will first come to the building committee in the form of a proposed change order. So, and we will receive approval or rejection or adoption of that. And then from that point, we'll take all of those proposed change orders from that month, and we're going to do two things with them. One is that our office, we go and we write a change order to every trade contractor that's associated with those PCOs. And I'll just quickly skip forward. You know, each change order has a description of the change with the trade, and then it has all of the backup information that went into that change. So we are responsible, and we spearhead sending all those change orders out, making sure that those change orders come back, that they're audited, and then on a monthly basis, we will submit two documents. One is going to be an AIA change order. That's the official document that amends the contract between the town and ONGAP. We release the work upon approval of the PCO. So what'll happen is, say next month we have 2 PCOs on homes. That would be the July meeting. At the August meeting, you would have an AIA change order for what was approved at the June meeting. Now, the Oxbridge Committee did not take formal action to approve the AIA because they already approved everything that made it up. It's entirely up to you if you want to make a formal motion on that. It doesn't matter to us, but that AIA change order is what is then signed by all the parties who executed the contract. So it'll be, you know, whoever the representative from the town, it'll be a representative from KG&D, and it'll be a representative from ONGAP.
But
So
Dave,
that's
once the potential change order is approved by the committee, or, you know, the certain number of individuals that need to, right? You effectively put that work into process, right?
yes,
It's been effectively approved at that point.
correct.
So I think the signing of the AIA is probably sort of like the signing of the invoices that get submitted, right?
It's a like I said, at Oxbridge and at many other municipalities that we do business with, it's that AIA travels in the background afterward and makes its way through signature and ends up in the file. So
Yeah, that sounds right.
okay. So that's that part. But then what we also do is we assemble what's called a state change order. And this is a form that was created by the Office of Grants Administration. It's called the EDO 42CO. And it's a standard form, and it basically it's us telling them these are a series of changes for the project. This is change number 1, and this is everything that is included in it. It's a document that's signed by ONGAP. It's signed by the design team. It's signed by the superintendent of schools, and it's signed by the town finance manager. Once all 4 of those signatures are assembled, we then take that document and we submit it to the Office of Grants Administration. And it has a whole bunch of other information. And this is where we, in a forthright way, say with the changes, if the change is eligible for reimbursement, or sometimes it's not. Listen, sometimes things come up and it's not eligible. And what we do is we try to accurately project that, so you're not given a false sense of hope that everything is eligible, only to find out that it's not. So we categorize that and we send it. Again, these change orders are rarely less than 100+ pages because of all the backup that we have to provide to them. What ends up happening from there is this is where there's been great fluctuation in the responsiveness of the state. Luckily on Ox Ridge, the reviewer we had there, I think we've submitted 14 state change orders, and they've reviewed 12 of them, which is impressive. Whereas right now I'm helping a municipality that is just now reviewing changes that I submitted to them in 2016. So, right, exactly. That's the look most people give, Tom. It's so you know, we're trying to help districts that are not getting reviewed. We're trying to help them get the attention of the state. So this is the process. We send it to them, they send it back, and like in the case, this will happen. We will send a change in and we'll say $50,000 is eligible, and it will likely come back and they'll say, nah, you know what, we think 20,000 of the 50,000 is ineligible, meaning we're not going to reimburse you at your rate of 20% for these projects or whatever it is. So we take that and we go back through what their comments are. We meet with them and then we get them to, either if they say, well, the backup didn't make sense to us, we go through the backup with them, we get them to understand it, and then they reissue their letter saying, okay, you submitted 50, we thought 20 of it was ineligible. Okay, yeah, only 3,000 is ineligible. So we chip away at it that way. So that at the end of the project, we have a clear audit of what is eligible, what's not eligible. And that's the process for changes that we shepherd the entire time.
Cool.
I know it's a super exciting process. I know.
No. This is really good. I mean, we're gonna see this in action, and we'll figure it out. It'll become more clear as we see it in action. But thank you for this. This is very helpful. Any questions before we move on to our next topic? And I know Dave Crevenzola has a hard stop. So if we have questions and other topics we want to take up with him, let's do that now. Can I just refresh on the change orders? Is that process what you go through for every single change order, or only change orders where you're seeking reimbursement or it's above a certain amount?
Are you talking about this one, the state change order?
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single change will get put under this.
Okay.
Because every time that a trade contract is affected, the state wants to know about it.
Right. So it's effectively no matter how small it is, it's effectively a change in scope that they need to approve and a change in the contract. Okay.
Dave, can you group multiple changes together if they affect one contract?
Well, oh yeah. So I mean, yes. So to Travis's point,
or multiple PCOs.
So say we submit, we have 5 PCOs for Royal, and they all get approved at the same committee meeting. And in those 5 PCOs, 3 of them had to do with the electrician. We're not gonna turn around the day after that committee meeting and write 3 separate change orders to the electrician. We will write 1 change order to the electrician that will reflect all 3 PCOs. So we're not putting forth 3 times the paperwork.
Okay. Cool. All righty. The next item we had was just to talk a little bit about communications. I know we had sent out flyers to the neighbors a little while ago, but is there anything anticipated ahead of construction start, or sort of so that they know the neighbors know who to speak to as questions come up over and above what we had already sent to them? Communication, the principal's primary source, like you said, the principals certainly during the school year are going to be on site every day. But I also wanted to kind of get Jameson and Sarah's input in terms of what we thought we wanted to do, if anything, with regard to, construction start. Is that something that we want to coordinate with Dr. Adley or with the principals? Because we know they put newsletters out, sort of how or what we want to do in that regard.
Jameson, do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea to let everybody know. I think it's a not, I don't want to say celebratory event, but
it's a good news event.
Yeah, it's a good news event. It's a good way of putting it. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to not just be giving updates of things that are yet to come, but that we've actually started the project and everybody's anticipation is being met now. And we typically we've communicated some through Dr. Adley, and I think that's probably the most effective way for parents. The neighbors we went through, I think, Go and GAP, if I'm correct, for like the neighbor communications is probably, so if
correct.
we do both, I think we probably cover most of the bases.
Yeah, right, we sent out that initial correspondence to everyone. I mean, that for us, that's a piece of correspondence that we issue it once for the project. Hopefully all the neighbors hang on to it. I know,
Right.
I think we, one person reached out to us and we let you know about that. Yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, start of
whatever,
work is going to be fairly obvious for the immediate
Yeah.
neighbors, right? I mean,
yeah, and I'm gonna mention something, and I don't want this to create angst or anything, but if there's any desire for the committee to do any sort of like a groundbreaking ceremony or something for the projects, we can, we do those, we can assist with those. I don't know, I know it's kind of tough when projects start in the summer because it's difficult. There aren't many, it's kind of difficult to get people around, but if there's some, ceremonial point when you want to acknowledge some things on the project, we welcome that, and we'll
I
assist in
wasn't
any way possible.
anticipating anything. That was kind of my question at the very, very beginning, right? Work just starts, but I do think, to Jameson's point, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to remind people in town. Obviously, like I said, that the immediate neighbors are going to see it, and it's going to be pretty self-evident. But maybe coordinating with Dr. Adley and or the principals to get the word out that, hey, everybody, project's underway. We're rolling now.
It may even be worth us communicating with the selectman's office, which obviously you have connection to, Sarah, of maybe in a town newsletter at some point. Yeah.
Yep.
Town newsletter at some point to just give like a status update.
We could. A groundbreaking ceremony is not a bad idea. You could put it in the papers and it would get attention as far as allowing folks to see who are not involved in local schools. Dr. Audley's communications will focus primarily on each of those schools. He's not probably going to send it to Oxford parents for the Henley and so forth. But it may be something nice that we can put in. I think, as you said, Chris, I think people are very excited about this. This is finally happening. We've been talking about it for a while, so it is exciting. And I'll talk to Dr. Adley, Jameson. We can talk to him about that, and Mr. Zagradsky, and a little picture. But it might be a nice way to tell everybody, what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you guys coordinate with those two constituencies, and then just let us know what you think the best way forward is on that.
Okay, we'll do.
Awesome. Kind of just circling back quickly to the OACs. This is on our agenda under new business, but because it is a time commitment in terms of how we think best to staff those meetings. Jill and I had talked about this a little bit. Our thinking was, we know the principals are going to be there. Kevin's probably going to be there. From the committee, our thinking was one of either Jill or me on any given Friday, and then Paul Harding and Tom Harris. And then because Tom and Paige have very similar skill sets, you guys can kind of work together. If Tom, you have a conflict, then Paige can make it, or vice versa. That seems like it would probably be sufficient staffing from the building committee standpoint, unless people had different ideas. But that seemed to be the most efficient. We don't run into issues with, gee, do we have a quorum or not have a quorum? And those seem to be the folks that are on the committee that have the most applicable expertise.
Paige, as a reminder, we have our meeting quorum is 5 individuals, so we need to stay under that. Otherwise, that would be technically an HHRBC meeting. We would need to have it noticed and so forth. So we're trying to, if 4 people is lovely. If we can do Chris or Jill, along with either Paul, Paige, and Tom, that would be great.
Does that sound right to you guys? Okay. I
would just say that at some point I'd like to go, just so I'm not
absolutely
to the
work.
Yeah. So just let me know, or I guess I'll coordinate with everybody. I don't need to be at every single one, obviously, as much as you guys routinely might be, but
I mean, I think that's a good idea, and you'll know when they are, and if you want to like, gee, I have availability, and if somebody can't make it, or again, we don't want to go over the terms of the number, but sure, there's no reason not to.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
I didn't have anything else. We didn't have anything to vote on or approve this evening. It was mostly getting updates on process. And Dave Crevenzola, thank you for the very complete update.
Sure.
And now, like I said, we're ready to go. So anything else anybody wants to bring up before we adjourn?
Yes, Chris, I'd love to find out from both Dave Carvanzola and Travis Hill. Let us know, when do you expect us to be meeting again? Because we'd like to make sure we give as much as advance notice. I don't know if we'll be heading into hot and heavy, like we'll be meeting again very regularly or less regularly. What do you see as the regular cadence?
Well, I think it's going to be really, I think you should establish a once a month, like a regular meeting that occurs the same night every month. And honestly, I would say just, make an entire year's worth of, file an entire year's worth.
Sounds great.
So that they're regularly scheduled meetings. So you can, right. I think you have rules, special meetings versus regular, as far as agenda flexibility and stuff like that. Right.
Yep.
So.
And it should probably be on weeks where you don't have an OAC, right? So
yeah,
OACs are every other Friday.
Yeah, Travis, I think a few months ago we started to bounce around what we thought was the right time to do the building committee meeting. I don't remember. I mean, generally doing a building committee somewhere around the, either the middle or the later half of the month seems to work, because that gives time for things like the payment application that usually, encompasses to the end of the month, gives time to compile that, get it reviewed, get it put back together. But it's really, we can account for that. Once we get going, everything happens on essentially a monthly cadence. And whether that month captures things through the end of the month or the middle of the month, you're always seeing things in a 1 month increment. So we're flexible there. We just need to know when those dates are, so we can make sure that we are, always in attendance, that it's blocked out for us, and that we are providing you with all of your materials in advance of the meetings.
Why don't we focus on the third Wednesday of each month, and then I'll get a schedule together and I will send it out, and that way we can make sure everyone that's
okay. And then presumably we can call special meetings if something comes up and we need to, right? If something needs approval on a more timely basis, we can do that if we have to.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
That's good practice. Yep.
Okay, great.
So
anything else that anybody has?
Well, we're almost at so this is, I mean, this would be starting you'd file that starting for July, right? You do the third week of July, third Wednesday in July, and start that way.
Yeah. I'll put a schedule together and I'll send it out.
Yeah, that'd be the 17th.
17th of July. Yeah.
For the third, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. With that, could I get a motion to adjourn? Dave motions, Tom seconds, all in favor. You got to vote, Paige. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
And I unfortunately have to be in the city early on Monday, so I won't be around for the actual shovels going to the ground, but I will swing by the sites.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's not gonna be, it's
pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, it kind of is. The pictures that you see that look really good at that are ones that were staged long in advance. So
correct.
But I would say too is just, if you ever are, at any of the sites and you want a tour, just come to our trailer and check in with the team, introduce yourself. The people on that site may not know who you are. Just introduce yourself. We always have extra PPE for you to put on. And you guys have worked hard for this project. You deserve to see it in progress if you're interested in it. Just a couple things though, if you do go, just make sure you've got appropriate footwear. I mean, it doesn't have to be a sanctioned work boot, but please no flip flops or open toed shoes or things like that. The surfaces are regular and there are some hazards, and just try to dress appropriately for a dirty, dusty job site, I guess.
Okay, great. No, that's helpful. That's good to know.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.